It was just past 10 p.m. when Danielle pulled her gray Toyota Highlander into Pump 5 at the dimly lit gas station off Route 46. The air was cold, sharp, and the kind of quiet that didn't feel safe. It felt watched. Her son, Jalen, 10 years old, sat in the back seat, hoodie up, tapping gently on his tablet with earbuds in. He didn't notice the two police cruisers parked by the air machine at first. Neither did she. Danielle stepped out, wearing navy blue scrubs with her hospital badge clipped to her chest. 12 hours on her feet, and now she just wanted to get home. Her legs ached. Her eyes were tired. But she moved with steady calm, the way working mothers learn to, because they have no choice. She glanced across the lot and finally saw them. Two white officers inside the cruiser, staring directly at her car. They didn't smile. They didn't wave. Just watched. Danielle exhaled, already knowing what was coming. She tapped Jalen's window softly. "I'm just grabbing water. 2 minutes. Lock the door." He pulled one earbud out. "Okay, Mom." From their cruiser, Officer Brent Holloway leaned forward, thick build, red face, chewing something. "What do you think?" he muttered. Officer Mark Doyle cracked his knuckles slowly. "Late night. Newer car. Expensive tires. And her? Nah, she didn't buy that." They stepped out, walking slow. No rush, like they were already sure of the story they wanted to tell. Danielle saw them approaching. She adjusted her posture slightly. Straight spine, calm face, her hand still resting on the gas pump. "Evening," she said with a soft nod. "You own this vehicle, ma'am?" Holloway asked, looking anywhere but her face. "Yes," she answered, calm. "It's registered under my name. Plates are clean. I'm a nurse. Just finished shift at City General." Doyle circled the back of her SUV, pretending to inspect something. "We got a call about a car that looks just like this. Gotta check it out." Danielle reached into her pocket slowly, pulling out her ID and registration. "You're welcome to run it." Holloway didn't take the documents. He stared at her badge. "City General, huh? Long drive to be filling up out here. You always wear scrubs when you buy gas?" Inside the car, Jalen paused his video. Something in his mom's voice had changed. It was quieter, shorter. He looked up, saw the two cops, saw how close they were standing, how one of them looked back at the car more than once. Jalen's breath caught in his chest. He slipped his tablet aside and pulled out his phone. No games, no hesitation. He tapped Uncle T in messages, typed fast with shaking fingers. "Two cops. Mom's in trouble. Gas station near exit 82. Please come now." He hit send. Then, without a sound, he opened the voice recorder and slid the phone into his hoodie pocket, the mic facing out. Danielle hadn't seen him move. She was still focused on Holloway, who had taken one step too close. "You got anything illegal in that car?" he asked. "No," she replied. "Just my son, and some old snacks in the back." Doyle stepped closer to the passenger window. "That your boy back there?" Danielle nodded. "His name's Jalen. He's 10. He's got asthma. He's tired. Please don't scare him." Doyle cupped his hand against the glass. Jalen stared straight ahead, barely blinking. The taller officer smirked. "Funny. This area doesn't see many cars like yours unless someone's borrowing it. You sure this ride's not—" Danielle's voice cut clean. "I bought this car. I've worked for 15 years. I don't have to explain how I afford basic transportation." Behind her, she spotted something that made her stomach drop. A sign taped to the gas station door. Security cameras temporarily disabled. Under maintenance. She froze. The officers didn't. They shifted slightly, smiles fading. "Well now," Doyle said, tone low. "Guess it's just us tonight." Inside the car, Jalen sat frozen. The red record light blinked beneath his hoodie. No witnesses, no footage, just silence, tension, and the sound of tires pulling into the lot. Headlights sliced through the dark. A large black SUV glided in, slow and deliberate. The cops turned, curious, slightly annoyed. Danielle turned too, her breath caught halfway up her throat. The door of the SUV cracked open, and the two officers had no idea who was about to step out. 12 hours earlier, Danielle had been in the middle of a double shift at City General's ER. Room 8 had a seizure case. Room 3 was a toddler with second-degree burns. The intercom kept calling nurse backup, and she hadn't eaten since 6 a.m. But none of that showed on her face when she walked into Room 5 to check on an elderly man who'd broken his hip. She smiled, took his vitals, asked if his soup tasted okay. That's what nurses did. They stitched people together even while falling apart themselves. She didn't complain when her manager begged her to stay another 4 hours, didn't grumble when someone spilled coffee on her scrubs. She just rinsed it in the sink and kept moving. Danielle had been a nurse for 15 years, but she'd been a mother even longer. And tonight, her only goal was to get home and tuck her son into bed. The drive home was quiet. Jalen sat in the back seat, legs crisscrossed, doing spelling on his tablet. "Spell responsibility?" Danielle asked, glancing at him through the rear view. He smirked, didn't even look up. "responsibility." "Okay, Mr. Genius," she laughed softly. "You trying to take my job now?" "Nope," he said, tapping away. "I'm gonna be a brain doctor. And also a rapper. But not at the same time." Danielle smiled wide, even though her whole body ached. "You'll be anything you want, baby. Just keep breathing." The cold air outside was starting to roll in. Jalen reached for his inhaler on instinct, not needing it, just wanting it close. Danielle noticed. "Hey," she said. "You good?" "Yeah, just being careful. You know how it gets when it's cold." He pulled his hoodie tighter around him. Danielle turned the heat up a notch. By the time they exited the freeway, the gas light blinked. Danielle sighed. One quick stop, and then home. Jalen didn't protest. He was used to these late-night routines. His mom was always tired, always carrying too much. But she never dropped him. Not once. They pulled into the gas station. A few other cars were scattered around, but the lot felt empty. Too empty. The kind of silence that made your skin tingle without knowing why. Danielle parked near the pump and shifted in her seat. Her back popped as she leaned forward to grab her wallet. "You want anything? Juice? Snack?" Jalen shook his head. "I'm good. Just finish this quiz." She leaned back and kissed her hand, then tapped it against the window. 2 minutes. Got it. Danielle stepped out, the pavement cold under her sneakers. She stretched slightly, rolled her shoulders, and glanced at the convenience store. She didn't notice the police car right away. Not until she heard the cruiser's low hum. Not until she felt eyes on her. And even then, she stayed calm. Like always. She pumped the gas, checked her phone, rechecked the pump. Routine. But something was off. A shift in the air. She looked toward the cruiser, saw 2 officers staring at her. Not blinking, not moving. She inhaled quietly. Inside the car, Jalen had paused his game, looked up. His mom's shoulders were a little straighter now, her arms a little tighter. He took one earbud out. Danielle turned to glance at him and nodded once. Just the usual, she mouthed. But Jalen had lived enough life to know what that meant. The same way he knew which drawer held the inhaler. The same way he knew how to press record. He didn't panic, didn't speak, just watched. The officers stepped out of the car slowly. Danielle tucked her ID back into her pocket. The routine was over. Now, it was something else. Officer Holloway was the first to speak. "You sure this your car, ma'am?" he asked, voice low but coated with suspicion. Danielle nodded once, keeping her tone even. "Yes, like I said, I just got off work. I'm a nurse at City General. My name and registration are in order." Doyle stepped closer, circling around the front of the SUV. His boots scraped the pavement. "You always fill up this late?" "I work late. My son's in the car. I just want to go home." Holloway still hadn't looked her in the eye. His gaze moved over her chest badge, down to her sneakers, back up to the car. "Doesn't really look like your kind of ride." Danielle didn't flinch. "Excuse me?" He gave a dry laugh. "It's just, we don't see many people like you driving something this clean. Must have hit the lottery at the hospital, huh?" Inside the car, Jalen was no longer watching his quiz. He had pulled the phone into his lap, camera ready, but not lifted. Yet. Danielle held Holloway's stare. "I've worked 2 jobs since I was 20. Nobody gave me this car." Doyle's voice chimed in from behind. "License and registration." She reached slowly, handed it over. The papers were clean, fresh. But Holloway didn't look at them. He let them hang in his hand like it didn't matter. "You sure your name's not borrowed too?" Danielle's lips pressed into a line. Her hand dropped slowly from the pump. "I've cooperated. There's no reason for this." "Ma'am, you're acting defensive. That usually means something's being hidden." Doyle stepped toward the passenger side and leaned into the window. Jalen froze. He didn't speak. He didn't move. But his fingers slid slowly across the phone screen. The voice recorder had been on. Now the camera was too. Doyle tapped the glass with his knuckle. "That your boy?" Danielle's voice didn't change. "Yes. His name is Jalen. He's 10. He has asthma. And he's terrified right now." Holloway raised an eyebrow. 10, huh? Doesn't look like any 10-year-old I've seen. You sure he's even yours?" That did it. Danielle's breath caught. Her face remained calm, but her jaw tensed. "Don't talk about my child." "Then maybe don't drag him around gas stations at night. You sure you're even a nurse?" Jalen's heart thumped. He reached toward the side door just in case. Not to open it. Just to be ready. His inhaler sat beside him, but he already felt the tightness coming. Danielle reached for her phone. Doyle saw it first. "Oh, no you don't." His hand shot out. The phone flew from her grip, skidding across the pavement beneath the car. "That's personal property," Danielle shouted. "You don't make calls when we're talking to you." Holloway stepped forward fast. His hand slammed across her shoulder, forcing her back into the SUV. "Stop resisting." "I'm not—" Doyle grabbed her wrist, wrenched it behind her back. She gasped, face twisted with pain. "Let me go! My son is watching!" From the back seat, Jalen screamed, "Stop it! Leave her alone!" He fumbled for his inhaler, hands shaking. His chest was burning now. Each breath sounded like it was being sucked through a straw. Doyle turned to look through the window. That him crying back there? He faking? Little act to distract us? Holloway opened the rear door with a grunt. Let's find out. Danielle screamed, "Don't touch him!" But Holloway already had one hand inside. Jalen tried to lift the inhaler, but his fingers failed him. The cop slapped the device from his hand. It hit the floor mat with a hard clack. "Quit the drama, kid!" Danielle broke free for a second. She lunged for the back seat, snatched the inhaler from the ground, and pressed it into Jalen's hand. "Baby, press it! Now!" Her body blocked the door as she tried to help him breathe. Doyle yanked her backward. "That's it. That's resisting. You just bought yourself a charge." "She's not doing anything," Jalen wheezed. "She's helping me." "You want to end up in child services tonight?" Holloway barked. "Keep yelling." Jalen's breath rattled like broken glass in his lungs. Danielle's legs buckled slightly as Doyle forced her back against the SUV. One wrist bent, her shoulder already bruising. "You're hurting me," she said. "I haven't broken any laws." "You people never think rules apply to you." Jalen finally managed to use the inhaler. Just one puff, but it hit. His lungs opened a little, enough to cry. "Mom!" That cry cracked something in Danielle. All the exhaustion from the hospital, the hours on her feet, the years of holding herself together in a world built to break her. It all surged at once. "You don't get to treat me like this," she shouted. "Not while my child is struggling to breathe." Holloway raised a finger. "That's it. That's the line." But then, headlights. Bright, wide, moving fast. A black SUV tore into the lot, tires screeching against wet pavement. The two cops paused. The vehicle stopped just 10 feet from them. The door swung open. Out stepped a tall black man in a crisp charcoal suit. He didn't shout, didn't look confused. He walked like someone who already knew everything. And as he raised one hand high, holding a black leather badge case, gold flashing in the light, Danielle choked out, stunned. "Terrence?" The man's voice rang loud and clear. "Remove your hands from my sister. Right now." The parking lot went dead silent. Doyle's grip loosened just slightly. Holloway's eyes narrowed. The badge in the man's hand gleamed gold under the buzzing gas station lights. Danielle stood frozen, breath shallow, one arm still twisted behind her back. Her eyes locked on the tall man in the suit. "Terrence?" she whispered again. The man stepped forward slowly. Calm, deliberate. "I said," his voice deeper now, "remove your hands from my sister." Neither officer moved at first. But Doyle shifted, glancing at Holloway. The grip broke. Danielle stumbled slightly as her arm was released. Terrence walked between them, placing himself beside his sister without even brushing against them. His eyes never left Holloway's face. "You have 30 seconds to explain yourselves before I make a phone call that ruins your careers." Doyle cleared his throat. "Sir, we were responding to suspicious behavior. She was uncooperative and became physical." "She's a registered nurse," Terrence cut in. "With a clean record, a legal vehicle, and a 10-year-old child having an asthma attack while you two played power games." He turned his head just slightly. "Jalen, you all right, buddy?" Jalen sat still in the back seat, breathing through his inhaler, eyes red but clearer. He nodded. Terrence looked back at Holloway. "You shoved a mother in front of her son. You slapped away a medical device from a child's hand, and I'm going to make sure that every second of it is played in front of the city council." Doyle stiffened. "Wait, are you—" Terrence finally gave the name. Calm, sharp, controlled. Mayor Terrence Calloway, elected by the people of this city, served in the 82nd Airborne, law degree from Columbia. And yes, Danielle is my sister. Danielle said nothing. She didn't need to. She stood taller now, her bruised wrist trembling slightly as she rubbed it. Holloway's voice cracked. "Mr. Mayor, we didn't recognize—" "That's the point," Terrence interrupted. "You don't need to recognize someone to treat them like a human being. You don't get to decide who deserves basic decency based on their clothes, their skin, or their car." Doyle took a small step back. "We can file a report. Internal Affairs will look—" "No," Terrence said. "You don't get to file this one quietly. I want your badge numbers now, both of you." They hesitated. Terrence's eyes darkened. "Don't make me ask again." Both officers, slow and stiff, removed their badges and handed them over. Terrence examined each one with the precision of a surgeon. He pulled out his phone, pressed a number, waited 2 rings. "This is Mayor Calloway. I need internal oversight and public safety dispatch at the Delta gas station off Route 46. 2 officers just assaulted a nurse and endangered a minor. Cameras are out. I have recorded audio and direct witness testimony." Pause. "Yes, I'm holding their badges now. No, they're not leaving." He hung up and turned to his sister. "Are you hurt?" Danielle nodded slowly. "He twisted my wrist." Jalen couldn't breathe. Terrence turned to the SUV. "Let's get him in my car. Now." Danielle opened the rear door. Jalen slid out slowly, still holding the inhaler. Terrence placed a hand on his shoulder, gentle but steady. "You did good, champ," he whispered. "You protected your mom. I'm proud of you." Jalen blinked back tears. "I recorded everything." Terrence smiled. "Even better." They moved to the mayor's SUV. Inside, the warmth hit immediately. Leather seats, tinted windows, silence. Outside, the 2 officers stood like statues. Red and blue lights began to flicker in the distance. Backup was coming, but it wasn't for Danielle. Terrence stood beside the open car door, eyes on them until the new units arrived. He spoke without turning. "You thought she was alone, that she was powerless, that no one would come for her." Holloway said nothing. Terrence finally looked back. "You were wrong." He got into the car, closed the door softly. Danielle leaned back into her seat, the exhaustion finally showing through. But now, there was something else in her face. Not just pain, not just fear. Power. The kind you only earn after surviving the worst night of your life, and watching the ones who caused it realize they picked the wrong woman. By the next morning, the story had already started spreading. The leaked footage, audio from Jalen's phone, matched with the gas station's corner security camera that miraculously still captured a sliver of the action, was enough to break the internet. Danielle didn't want to watch it, but it was everywhere. Every major local station had the same banner. Mayor's sister assaulted by police. Child with asthma denied inhaler. The phone rang nonstop. Some were reporters, some were family, but most were people she'd never met. Nurses, mothers, teachers, firefighters, all saying the same thing. "We saw what they did, and we're standing with you." That afternoon, Terrence called a press conference on the front steps of City Hall. Cameras clicked. The crowd swelled. Officers, press, activists, council members, even retired military vets, all waiting. Danielle stood behind him, hand in a brace, Jalen beside her, with quiet eyes. Terrence adjusted the mic, looked out over the sea of people. 2 nights ago, he began, my sister, a registered ER nurse, and her 10-year-old son were assaulted at a gas station by officers of this very city. They were not armed. They were not combative. They were harassed for the color of their skin and the car they drove. He held up a small black device. This is the phone Jalen used to record the interaction. A 10-year-old child had more professionalism and calm than 2 trained officers. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some people already knew. Others were just hearing it now. Terrence continued. My nephew couldn't breathe. His inhaler was slapped from his hand. And that, my friends, is not just a breach of protocol. It's not a misunderstanding. It's a crime. Danielle glanced at Jalen, who stood tall, chest rising and falling slow, like he was finally breathing again. Terrence's tone sharpened. As of this morning, both officers have been suspended without pay. Internal Affairs is investigating. But that's not enough. He pointed toward the council members behind him. We are introducing the Jalen Carter Protection Act, effective immediately. This law will mandate the following. 1. Working body cams on all patrol units with strict compliance checks. 2. Disciplinary action for failure to provide medical care. And 3. A permanent oversight board led by civilians, including parents, nurses, and veterans. Applause erupted. Loud. Raw. Danielle blinked fast to keep the tears down. She didn't want pity. But this felt different. This felt like power. Terrence wasn't done. This law is named after a child who reminded all of us that doing the right thing doesn't always come from the top. Sometimes it comes from the back seat of a car, from a kid with a phone and a voice. The crowd went silent. Danielle stepped forward briefly. She wasn't a politician, but she was a mother, a nurse, a woman who'd been bruised and humiliated in front of her child. She looked straight at the cameras. I'm not here to burn down the city, she said. I'm here to heal it. But you can't heal what you won't admit is broken. Those officers saw my skin and assumed my story. They saw my son and assumed his danger. But I'm not going anywhere. And my son will grow up in a city that protects him, not fears him. Someone in the crowd yelled, "Say it again!" Danielle took a breath and did. We're not going anywhere. That night, footage from the press conference was broadcast nationally. Cable news anchors used words like historic, bold, and necessary. In neighborhoods across the city, murals began to appear, one showing a boy with an inhaler in one hand and a phone in the other. At Jalen's school, teachers gave him a standing ovation when he walked in. But he stayed quiet, shy, just nodding slightly as his classmates patted his shoulder. Because to him, it wasn't about going viral. It was about protecting his mom. And now, the whole world knew what he'd done. Danielle, meanwhile, returned to work. Quietly. No press, no interviews. She just wanted to help her patients. But people noticed. One older woman, hooked to IVs in room 7, reached for Danielle's hand and whispered, "They tried to break you, but all they did was prove your strength." The courtroom was packed. Not a single empty seat. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but sketch artists and journalists filled every bench. Danielle sat near the front, wrist still wrapped, her hospital badge clipped neatly to her blouse, like armor. Jalen sat beside her in a navy suit, feet barely touching the floor. His eyes darted between the lawyers and the jury box, but he didn't say a word. Terrence sat 2 rows behind, quiet but unmistakable. At the defense table sat Holloway and Doyle, both in pressed suits, clean-shaven, with their lawyers whispering non-stop. But nothing could clean up what was about to happen. The prosecution started with the basics. Footage from the gas station camera, blurry but damning. Then came the bombshell. Jalen's recording. The courtroom went silent as the audio played. "Doesn't look like someone who drives a car like this. She's helping me. Stop it." "Quit the drama, kid. You people never think rules apply to you." The gasps from the jury said everything. Danielle didn't blink. She'd already heard it. She'd lived it. But now, strangers could hear it too, and that made all the difference. When Jalen took the stand, he spoke softly, but clearly. "They kept calling my mom a liar. They said I was faking, but I couldn't breathe. I was scared. I just wanted her to be okay." He clutched his inhaler the whole time. Not once did he cry. Danielle watched him with her hand over her heart. The defense tried to spin it, said it was a stressful situation, said emotions ran high, said miscommunication, not malice. But the evidence didn't lie. Neither did the footage showing Holloway striking Danielle's phone or the moment Doyle twisted her arm while she screamed for help. And it didn't help that one of their own colleagues, Officer Michelle Rivera, testified that both men had previous complaints of racial profiling. The jury only deliberated for 4 hours. The verdict came back clear. Guilty. Assault. Child endangerment. Abuse of authority. Judge Simmons, a seasoned black woman with steel in her voice, stood firm. These officers betrayed their oath, endangered a child's life, and escalated a peaceful encounter based solely on bias. Today, this courtroom reaffirms something simple. Black lives are not threats. She turned to the defendants. "You are hereby stripped of your badges, effective immediately. Sentencing will follow. But your careers in law enforcement are over." Gasps again. Not just from the crowd, from the officers themselves. They hadn't expected that. Not like this. Danielle didn't cheer, didn't clap. She simply reached over and held Jalen's hand. He looked up at her. "Is it over now?" She smiled gently. "Almost." As they stood to leave, Danielle turned slightly, not toward the officers, but toward the hallway full of reporters waiting outside. She didn't speak into microphones, didn't give a statement. She just walked down those steps like someone who had finally been heard. Outside, a small group had gathered, not to protest, but to support. Nurses held signs that read, "She helps us. We protect her." Kids held up drawings of Jalen with a cape. Veterans stood in silence, with hands over hearts. Terrence stepped forward. "We're going home now," he said softly. "Let the rest of the city carry this weight. You did your part." As they got into the SUV, someone shouted, "Thank you for standing up." Danielle turned back for just a second. "I didn't stand up," she said. "I just refused to kneel." Then she closed the door, pulled Jalen close, and watched the courthouse shrink behind them in the mirror, not with regret, but with relief. Because justice didn't always come easy. But today, it came loud. 3 weeks later, Danielle walked into City General in full uniform, her hospital badge swinging slightly with each step. The front desk nurse stood up. "Room 4's asking for you." Danielle didn't ask why. She just nodded and walked down the hall. Inside the room, an elderly black woman in her 70s lay in bed with an oxygen tube and tired eyes. When she saw Danielle enter, her face lit up. "You the one they've been talking about on TV?" the woman asked. Danielle smiled gently. "I don't know about all that. I'm just here to check your pulse." The woman laughed lightly. "They say you stood up to some real bad ones. They tried to scare you quiet." Danielle wrapped the blood pressure cuff around her arm. "They tried. It didn't work." The woman leaned in just a bit. "You made it easier for the next nurse who looks like you. Remember that." Danielle didn't respond, but her smile said everything. Later that week, Jalen stood nervously in his school auditorium, a small medal hanging around his neck. The principal called it the Civic Courage Award. His classmates clapped. Some teachers wiped their eyes. Jalen just looked for his mom in the crowd, found her, waving small, holding back tears. He didn't like being in the spotlight, but he liked what it meant, that people saw what was wrong and didn't look away this time. After the assembly, one of the boys who used to avoid sitting next to him on the bus walked up. "I saw your video," he said. "It made me think." Jalen nodded. That was enough. Downtown, the city council voted unanimously to pass the Jalen Carter Protection Act. Every patrol car in the city now required live body cam streaming to a public archive. Officers found disabling cameras would face automatic suspension. A new oversight board was formed, 50% civilians, 50% community leaders. And one rotating seat was reserved for a working nurse. Danielle never asked to be on it, but they offered. She declined. For now. She said she still had patients to care for, but she kept the letter in her drawer. Just in case. On a quiet evening, weeks after the courtroom verdict, Danielle and Jalen sat on their front porch. The city skyline blinked in the distance. Spring air rolled soft across their faces. Jalen sipped warm cocoa, legs tucked under him. "Do you think they'll leave us alone now?" he asked. Danielle looked up at the stars, thought for a second. "No," she said softly. "They won't. Not all of them." Jalen's face dropped slightly. "Then, how do we stay safe?" She leaned over and kissed his forehead. "We don't stay safe by hiding," she said. "We stay safe by standing, by knowing when to speak, when to record, and when to call someone who can't be ignored." Jalen smiled. "Like Uncle T?" She nodded. "Like Uncle T. Like each other. Like every person out there who refuses to be quiet." Down the block, someone drove by slowly and waved. Danielle waved back. For the first time in a long time, it didn't feel like pretending. It felt like healing. And as the porch light glowed behind them and the city buzzed with quiet life, Jalen leaned his head on her shoulder. "You think one day," he whispered, "they'll stop doing that to people like us?" Danielle didn't answer right away. But then she said, "I think one day they'll be too afraid to try." Because this time the story didn't end with trauma. It ended with truth, with power, with proof. That one voice, one video, and one phone call could turn fear into change. And that justice doesn't whisper. It roars.